Hi, how do you manage your frustrations? One thing I can tell you about is we all think very differently. And not only differently, we all react differently. But one thing I'm going to say is what are the level of frustrations that you endure? Hmm. And when do you actually experience frustration? And where do the frustrations actually start in your life? Another thing to think about is when do you make time to actually deal with and acknowledge the level of frustrations you go through? So, welcome everyone. My name is Jeanette. Let's be so thankful for this day the Lord has made and for this channel to being a blessing to us all. And we're going to go through a topic review from last week. The topic we discussed last week was about a time for a change. And we discussed a couple of points, and let's list five of them. Number one, the decision in how you consider your time, your purpose, and what you do with your time, and how you manage your time and how you handle it, your activities and how you prioritize your time, and actually the tools that you use and how you organize and schedule your time. And hopefully that was very helpful of what we actually went through last week. Because when we need a time for a change, it is something that we really have to sit down and spend that time in solitude and making that decision, the choices, and your actual intentions and how you're going to move forward to that next phase of your life. And hopefully those were helpful. And now with our new topic, we're talking about frustration. So let's define what frustrations are. Well, you tend to be very frustrated. You tend to have that sense or even a state of insecurity when you're going through that of a particular situation. Or maybe there's a level of dissatisfaction in what you're going through in that frustration part, or there's a lot of unresolved problems that are not joining together, meshing together, or that puzzle has not been solved yet. Sometimes you might even have very unfulfilled needs, a certain need that is such a high priority that actually needs to be met like now. Well, things can't happen like now. I know sometimes we tend to want things to happen right away, but if there's other people or other parties involved, that might not be the case. You might feel very irritated because you're trying to close off things, you're trying to move forward, you're trying to advance to that next stage or that level of your life, and you feel so irritated because you know what? Guess what? It's not happening. You are in that area of being stuck. Or there's a major delay, and that major delay might be other people that's involved in the situation or a delay in the process. There's maybe even a delay in some form of paperwork. There's a prioritizing of how things are supposed to go. That's why there's that major delay. And when you go through your life and these life journeys, you're going to have a level of results that's on your time. And sometimes this is a season of life that you have to go through. And unfortunately, a lot of us say, hey, I don't have time for this. I don't need to go through this frustration. But you know what? Sometimes you might. Sometimes God has you in these levels. It's not to harm you, but it's to grow you and mature you in your spirit. And as you're going through these, I'm going to give you five actual steps. Just consider them. And when you experience another time in your life that you are feeling frustrated and you're saying to yourself, you know what, how can I get past this? Think about these five things. Number one, you're going through a frustration, and where's your patience level? Are you from 0 to 10? Where would you be on that scale? A lot of us need to learn to be a little bit more patient. Yes, that's a very hard, but it's very trainable to do. And once you get through this, the next time you go through it, you'll learn a little bit better that, yes, you know what? I need to be patient. There's certain things that need to be happen, then I can move to the next stage. What about your kindness? Yeah. Sometimes we've got to think about that. We tend to be just not thinking about others in the process as well. Sometimes they can't move things along as quickly as you might want things to go. And you have to make sure to be kind. It's not anyone else's fault that this is where you're at. You just have to learn to bear with it and say to yourself, you know what? It's nobody's fault. This is a situation, and you know what? I'm going to pull through, and I'm just going to be patient with it. And what about number 3? How are you acting as being your best, doing your best, and like I said, acting your best during this process? Probably not the best at the time because, you kind of want things to move along a little quicker, but guess what? It's not going to happen. So you're in that frustration state and you're saying to yourself, well, hey, I'm being my best, but oh no, here comes something else out of left field. You know what? Just know something. You're not alone through it because God's with you. And it's to mature you and it's to grow you to that next stage and that level. It's something you might not want to hear, but when you go through it, sit and think about that. And number 4, have you ever acknowledged the level of frustration of not just why it's happening, but to understand the process of it happening? Take the time to do that. You might sit and consider, hey, you know what? This is not something I really want to go through, and oh, here we go again. Yep, it's another life learning lesson of you going around that same circle maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times until you get it. You might go through it many different shapes and forms. What I mean by that is many different ways. So what about number 5? How about you resolving it? So instead of murmuring about it, which means complaining about your frustration, how about you actually deal with it, try to isolate it, try to solve it in the sense of hitting it head on and not living in fear, anxiety, or even worry as you're going through that frustration. And then guess what? It won't escalate to that next level that it really doesn't need to go. So how about you try these things and try it out in your life and see what happens. I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect because everybody's situation is very different. We all go through different levels of challenges. Sometimes we really put to the test. And guess what? It's only going to mature who you're supposed to be and who you're becoming. And I would like to say, in conclusion to all of this, we all experience different levels of frustration in our lives, and we should really pay attention to the learning life lessons that we go through and what it's all about and that process of the level of frustration we're experiencing at that moment. And some of us might fall into an experience where, hey, we go through it and guess what? We become less stressed because guess why? We've evolved, yes? And we have that awareness to say, guess what? I've learned because last time I was in a similar situation, but guess what happened? I'm not going down that road. I'm going to say, you know what? God is with me. He'll never leave me, never forsake me because I have achieved from the last time I've been through a similar experience. And yes, this might be something different, but it's a journey I'm going to go through and I'm going to have victory with it. And just keep that with you and just keep pressing forward because you know what? It's a part of life. We all go through it at some time or another, but remember, it's how you go through it. It's your attitude and how you go through it. And yes, we all have different level of expectations, but guess what? The common denominator is you need to just say to yourself, hey, guess what? I really don't like this. Own it. And then say to yourself, but you know what? I understand I got to go through it. And I'm going to try to be and act and do my best as I'm going through this process. So I'd like to say thank you today for tuning into this episode. And thanks for your likes, comments, and subscribing to this channel. And until next time, next week on June the 19th, 2022. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you.